So I discovered this through a Facebook community page of all places. I would have never have guessed it was there otherwise. I'm not entirely sure on the history of the location other than it was pastoral lands, and now that it's owned by Whiteman Park, which is a very popular conservation area, probably about 20-30 minutes away from here. It's not particularly close, so I was surprised to see that the land extends that far. But regardless, the bridge has been there a very long time, as you'll see, and it's untouched. We're only about 15 kilometers away from the Perth CBD, so it's not a rural location at all. So this is kind of a pilot episode for the channel. So if it seems like I don't know what I'm saying, it's because I honestly don't know what I'm saying and I can't even find the turn off. Okay, so here we are, Guildford Meadows. Let's go. So here we are in the car park for Lilac Hill Park, which came under the Swan Shire management in 1956, at least as far as my research goes. This, however, is Guildford Meadows, which probably up until at least the 1980s was farmland or pastoral lands, whatever that means. There's a few indications on this gate of what its current state is. So I believe this sign is probably out of date. So WAPC stands for Western Australian Planning Commission. So I'm not exactly sure what the connection is there, but I believe that the scratched out nature of this sign isn't actually vandalism. I think it's just out of date. So they've scratched out the phone number and they've scratched out the no unauthorized access. Now it just says authorized access, although that does seem like vandalism, I guess. This other sign gives us indication of how the land is currently used. As you can see, there is a Whiteman Park logo there. We're not really near Whiteman Park as most people know it, as far as tourism goes, but this land is connected up by the Bennett Brook, which is what our bridge goes over. So as far as I am aware, this is public land. I don't believe we are trespassing. There is this gate, but there's certainly nothing else stopping us from going in. So as we can see, here is the original driveway. And as we go in, we'll see at least one structure and maybe a concrete slab. How exciting. They indicate it's passed as pastoral land. So from my understanding, most of the structures on this land were demolished between 1985 and 1989. But it appears that the structures did change somewhere between 1970 and 1974, if historical aerial photography is to go by. At the moment, we're standing on some sort of slab, which is now used as a dumping ground for tree branches and other such rubbish. But I believe this was a homestead. However, it could have been derelict before that fact. Just judging by the aerial photography, I couldn't see any vehicles or anything like that. But of course, hopefully the sun's not causing that to be too invisible. There's a guy. It's pretty cool. But basically we have that shed. So let's head over towards that, where that four-wheel drive is, and that golf buggy, and have a look at the shed. So I don't really have any idea why this sole shed has remained when everything else has been demolished, but I'm led to believe that that is a fig tree that is growing inside it and out the top. So pretty cool, not very noteworthy otherwise, but yeah, look at that. The fig tree that could, I guess. So as we can see, we're moving further away from the road. So that's West Swan Road there, and that is Barker's Bridge. It's probably about the last sign of civilization we'll see for a while. That's the track we just walked down, and we're going to keep following it all the way up to that tree line. So as we can see, it is quite arduous, I guess. Maybe that's not the right word. It's been raining a lot recently. It is the middle of winter. But as we can see, we are coming along the track. And all along the track are these olive trees. Obviously they're not native, but they were planted here, and I'm just curious as to what exactly this land would have been used for. In the old historical imagery, you can see that there's some sort of farming activity. I'm not exactly sure what, some sort of crops, probably cows. A lot of cows around here, even though we are quite close to the city. But yeah, as we can see, there isn't actually any olives on them at the moment. When I came here a couple of weeks ago, the ground was absolutely littered with just olives that had fallen off, so... Okay, well, I guess everyone knows what olives looks like, but as we can see, it is quite an idyllic little track, and I'll remind you that we are very close to civilization. It does feel like we're in the middle of nowhere at the moment, and it will feel even more like that the deeper in we get, but you know, the city's only 15 kilometers that way. That's the Swan River running along there. Guildford town site just on the other side. Let's crack on. I found some olives. Like my partner just mentioned, I think the birds have picked all the good ones, but obviously I don't, as my partner also mentioned, there is a lot of olive oil production in this region of WA, but I feel like these were placed here for aesthetic reasons to cover the track. So that makes me feel like that people did live here at some point. I don't think just if it was just farming land straight up, people would really go to the effort. But as you can see, a lot of these trees, they do look quite old, as you can see. So unsure when these were planted, but I'd say probably at least 40 to 50 years ago, if I were to guess. And I know nothing about trees. So hopefully the sun isn't cutting off that too much, but as we can see, there is some activity in this area. I'm not sure if that was just to cut down on weeds, but there is active tree planting going on around here, like Trillion Trees Australia, for example. Basically, those websites talking about planting the trees is all the information I can really find on this area. Apparently, we're on top of what's called the Gnangara water mound, which is vital to the water drinking supply in Perth. So they're planting a lot of trees around here, which is good. And it does say on those pages that this area was cleared for grazing in the 1930s and 1940s. So even though I tried to prepare my notes, I guess I just forgot to add that. So luckily there is phone reception around here. Like I said, we're absolutely not in the middle of nowhere, even though it does appear that way, but we're making our way down the track and we can see the track is about to end. So I'm going to try and not step on any new planted trees, but I was right. On closer inspection, they are planting stuff here. So what does that say? Viminaria Jansia, swanbush, native broom. So like I said, I was curious as to what this area was used for originally, whether it was crops or cows, but looking up that webpage before, which I will link below, it was used for grazing. Oop, I just slipped. As I said, it's very muddy. So another great thing my partner just mentioned, she's an absolute fountain of knowledge, was about the cows. The cows were probably adding a lot of bad things into the ground via their poop and just stomping on it. So like I said, they've changed this ownership into Whiteman Park. It's now all conservation lands, which is great, which is why the bridge we are getting to eventually, I swear, just behind that tree line, that's why that's still there. So this is where the track ends for most people. I don't think most are even aware of that bridge. You wouldn't know it. The road did go all the way through here up until sometime in the 1980s, but if you go through the historical imagery, it does eventually get more and more overgrown. So as you can see, there's a bit more, nothing more than a walking trail left really, but as we head in through these bushes, we approach the Bennett Brook. And looking at the age of some of these trees, you can tell that this has been blocked off from vehicle access for a very long time. I think even those off-road vehicles we saw before would have trouble getting in here. But here we are, the bridge, which has been the focus of this video all along. I have no idea how old this is. The earliest imagery around here is from 1953, and you can see the bridge in that. But as you can see, the concrete here is quite worn away, even though it is flat in this particular spot. But the standout feature is, of course, the two, I'm going to guess, gum tree logs, which have been used. This one here is quite gone. I wouldn't be stepping on that one. This one's looking a bit more solid, although I would be hesitant to stand on that as well. But I just find this amazing. Right on the Bennett Brook, obviously quite full this time of year. There is a bigger lake further that way, which seems completely cut off considering how close to civilization we are. But I believe there is a lot of bird species and whatnot that live in. There's someone coming down on a canoe, so I'll let them pass. They probably don't want to be in the video. Okay, so the woman in the kayak has turned around. Not sure if she knew the bridge was here or not. I'm surprised to see her, honestly. She would have had to canoe quite a distance from the Swan River to get down here. But let's take a closer look at this bridge. Neither of us are game to walk across it. Across there we have the suburb of Lockridge, and I'll be honest, I'm happy to be on this side of the bridge. I don't really want to go over there. Someone was murdered in Lockridge a couple of weeks ago, so I think I might stay on this side of Bennett Brook. But if we get a closer look in here, we can see all these like nails, and it's all pretty gnarly. It looks very old. The track does look a bit more complete on that side of the river. Brook, sorry, not river, although it is a pretty wide brook. Judging by the aerial photography, it just goes through this bushland and pops out the other side into the suburbs. It does look like there was some activity in that bushland in previous years. Looked like there was a TAFE or some sort of complex like that up until about 20 odd years ago, but maybe that could be a video for another day, but I'm not too interested in heading over there today. But obviously this is the star of the show. So there's not really anything of historical interest specifically for this bridge, but what I find interesting is the fact that it is here after all these years, possibly 60, 70, 80 plus years going back to the 30s and 1940s. The fact that it's had so much go on around it, all the development of Perth and the immediate suburbs, none of that was around when this bridge presumably was originally built. And I do find that fascinating. I think it's great that they're using this land for conservation now, and it's great that there's been no vandalism. It's all just natural decay, and I think that's great. So yeah, that's it for the first episode on this channel, which I'm probably going to call Brendan's Odyssey. Honestly, I'm not too sold on the channel name yet, but we'll see. Hopefully it will grow on me. Like I said in the intro, this is a pilot episode of sorts, but I do have a big long list of things around the Perth, immediate Perth area, and then off into the more rural areas as well. There's a lot of cool things around here which I think should be captured and broadcast to the outside world. So if you are interested in that sort of thing, please consider subscribing, hitting the like button so the YouTube algorithm does its thing and shows it to other people, and hit the bell and all that. But otherwise, I'm Brendan, this is Brendan's Odyssey, and thank you so much for watching.